Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's Heroes Table. We are very excited to be back on track. Hopefully this episode will go way better than last time, because this time we shouldn't have many technical difficulties. Yes, so the program for today is very similar to the usual program. We have our short introduction here that we do, and then we'll get on to the topic of today, which will be the Valkyrie. As you may or may not know, the Valkyrie is the special character that you will be able to get from being on the whitelist. And then we'll end the show as always with a Q&A where you guys can ask questions, and we will probably also have other things to show during that time. But yeah, help me in welcoming my co-host Talvius and Midnight. And
hello.
Yeah, welcome guys.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So so the Valkyrie tonight. It's an interesting character, I think, especially considering that it's like this exclusive character, kind of like the Augur in a way, but this one is like the whitelist character.
Yeah.
So let's get into some background of the Valkyrie. Take it away.
So cool. So in previous episodes we talked about these levels of conflict throughout the world of eternity, down to the local level, to the kingdom level, all the way up to the celestial level. And this story really introduces and puts at the forefront that celestial level of conflict. The Valkyrie is not only an awesome looking warrior, but is a total badass celestial warrior. Like, she has fought since the beginning for the gods of life, and has done so across dimensions, battlefields, uncomprehensible to us in every form, and is just the I don't want to say the trope, but sort of the eternal warrior, I guess, would be the archetype. All she's known is conflict, and all she has done her entire life is train and fight for the gods of life. And of course, at the top level, we have two forces. We have the gods of life, and we have the gods of death. And they are, of course, in conflict, perpetual conflict that spans time, space, everything. And so, this story really introduces that. It doesn't give us the background or the source of this conflict, but, does discuss this omnipresent conflict and how the Valkyrie is really at the center of it. For the Valkyries, for the gods of life, there is the opposite, that is the Draugrs for the gods of death, the elite warriors for either side. And they meet in battle everywhere throughout time. Anywhere the gods of death go, the gods of life, and you'll find the Valkyries trying to stop them. And so this story really goes beyond eternity at this point, and spans worlds, like I said, dimensions, everything. And it really focuses on one battle in particular, sort of introduces this major conflict, the celestial conflict, and then drops you into a battle with the Valkyries against the Draugrs. And the Valkyries are pushing towards one of these gods of death. In my mind, I'm an H.P. Lovecraft fan. And so in my mind, when I thought God of Death, first person I thought was Cthulhu. And we don't really describe the gods, so there's plenty of room for interpretation and building this. But that's mentally, that's where my head always goes. Big wings, tentacles, just big evil dark guy. And the Valkyries in this battle are pushing forward, trying to reach him and strike a serious blow to the gods of death. And this god quickly realizes that he's in a tight spot. The Valkyries are coming at him quickly. They're pushing hard through his forces. They're not slowing down. And so what he starts to do is try to make an escape. He starts wrapping himself in darkness. If you'll remember, we discussed this darkness before, and the vampire story and the augur story. This story sort of connects that. We see potentially, where this darkness comes from, and it is the gods of death. This is sort of their power, their force that they put out into the world, and it's dark and oily, and the god starts to wrap himself in it, and the Valkyrie quickly realizes that she's about to lose her chance, and so she begins to push even harder to get to him so that she can strike a blow against this conflict and really make some headway here. And right as I'll note, as the gods of death have this darkness, this oily and thick, palpable darkness, the gods of life have the opposite. They have a fire. They have a celestial fire that consumes darkness. It seeks out darkness. It's not just, you light a match kind of fire. It is a almost sentient being in and of itself, sort of the essence of the gods of life. And it's bestowed upon all of the Valkyries and the warriors, these elite warriors. And so they can use it in their battles. And so as the god of death is sort of wrapping himself in this darkness, she uses her spear, which you can see in the art, and uses the fire around the tip of the spear, and she leaps and strikes this shell of darkness. And in that moment, he rips open a tear between dimensions and is forced through by him trying to make an escape, and her blow strikes him. And in that moment, this intense collision of opposite powers, this essence of darkness and essence of life, turns that darkness around him, around the god of death, into crystals. It's really thick crystal barrier, and it forms, and he punches through this hole between dimensions, and then it seals behind him, and he's gone as quickly as that. And on the other side of this portal, we end up with two perspectives after this moment. On the other side of this portal, the god of death, now enraptured in this crystal cocoon, sort of how I sort of pictured it, hurls towards a young, fresh planet, and in comes eternity. He hits the atmosphere, and this, as you can imagine, massive creature covered in crystals hits the atmosphere, and all these crystals start breaking off, and they spread across the world of eternity. I would also note, remember, we discussed the crystals before. These are not new things, but this story introduces sort of their origin, this celestial origin, these alien materials that get spread across eternity as he plummets to the earth. To not only through that, but he impacts the planet with such force that throws dirt, dust, crystals across the planet. It is sort of I won't say catastrophic, but it is a massive event for eternity.
Hmm.
And in his impact, he now rests. Freshly covered the planet of eternity in these crystals that, will be sort of central later on, and um, comes to rest there on eternity. On the other side, the Valkyrie, her name is Celeste, um, is so frustrated. You can imagine this ultimate goal, striking a blow to your lifelong enemy, and he escapes. And then, they finish the battle. The god is gone, so it's just cleaning up the gods of death forces after that. And she is so driven to finish what she started that she makes it her mission to find this particular god, figure out where he went, what happened to him, and finish what she started. And so she, um, keeps an ear out for anything that sounds odd or any indication of where this god ended up, and ends up hearing about some people on Eternity, that this little fresh planet that had a really odd event happen, and some of the local people um, have sort of investigated this odd event, um, and she suspects that is where her target has ended up, and so she herself travels between dimensions using the power that the gods of life have bestowed on her to, as the god of death did, punch through these dimensions, and finds herself on Eternity, sort of weakened, in a weakened state. It's obviously no small feat to transfer yourself between dimensions, and she's just done this and used up a lot of her energy to do that. And so that's sort of where we find her. She's just punched through a dimension in search of her final foe, and finds herself in a forest. This, fire that she had wielded for centuries, um, is diminished. And that's sort of where we find her, in this diminished state, the eternal warrior with her eternal weapon, sort of in a weakened state.
How long ago did this part take place in comparison to our um, main story in terms of like where the gameplay starts?
Oh man, in terms of the gameplay, this god, the arrival of the god of death on Eternity, is ancient history. You'll get more context about that in another story that we'll share with you later on, but it is the thing of legend. Um, it was there, it started sort of when Eternity was a very fresh planet, new life, mostly untouched. Um,
Okay. So he hit the before sentient life.
Um, he hit probably right around there. I think in the story that we introduced, there are humans, but it's sort of an early state,
Hmm.
very primitive humans
Okay.
on the planet.
And what this gods of life, gods of death, are they essentially the creators of this universe?
I honestly don't know. I sort of have explored this cosmic conflict, like I said, this omnipresent conflict, and these two main forces that are on either side of it. But mentally, I haven't really dug down into the origin. I think that would be something very much worth exploring with the team and with the community on, why are there gods of life? Why are there gods of death? Why are they opposed to each other? Is it something as simple as life and death are opposite forces? Or was there something that began that started this splinter and started this change?
Gotcha.
So,
So when
we
she...
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Isha.
Well, I just wanted to ask because you said that the Valkyrie eventually beat this god, and he was thrown into this dimension. Was this dimension eventually what would be eternity, or is this dimension the same dimension that the Augur went to, for example, in the Augur story? How does these dimensions relate?
That's a great question. I think when I was thinking about these various dimensions, I very much had sort of an idea of endless planes of existence. The short answer in my mind would be the dimension that the augur found his power is just a different dimension, another dimension that the gods of death are pushing on and trying to conquer and consume. And
so they're not directly related in a way, it's not the same dimension.
Yeah, in my mind, it's not the same dimension. It's another dimension, and sort of introduces this concept of the multiverse, if you will. Endless universes, endless dimensions, endless variations on our current reality and different realities that encompass not just, I don't know, totally different planes of existence. Not just like slight variations on eternity in the world of eternity, but just vastly different, a vast array of dimensions, planes of existence, all of that, such that this conflict is spans everywhere. It's really an endless war front.
So this particular dimension that this god goes through when he's beaten by the Valkyrie, is it like a travel point? Like he goes into the dimension and then out from the dimension before he reaches eternity, or is eternity inside this dimension that he's being thrown into?
Right. So in the story, the way that I sort of envisioned it when I was writing it is they are fighting in a different dimension, and he pools his power, the power of darkness, to sort of tear a hole in that dimension, between that dimension and the dimension that eternity is in, and it's through that hole that he manages to make his escape. Almost like punching a hole. If you're out in space, punching a hole in a spaceship, it sort of rips, and he gets pulled through, and then as soon as he passes through, that tear is sealed shut behind him.
So obviously that also suggests that the Valkyrie is not actually originating from eternity in this story.
Absolutely. This story sort of drops you in when she is who she is, which is a leader of the Valkyries. She's, a captain, I believe, in the Valkyries, and all she's known is war. And I think that's another interesting place to explore is where does she come from? Where do Valkyries come from? Are they the same beings? Are they different beings? How are they found? If they're found, are they created? I think all of these are really cool questions that we can use to explore this world, this cosmic conflict, and how all of that works.
Yeah, definitely very interesting. Well, I'll let Tal get back to it. I rudely interrupted here.
No, that's fine. I was curious on Celeste having the ability to essentially reveal herself to I guess the creatures around her, both, animal, sentient, whatever. Because she does have that power to exist on multiple planes, because we know that she's taken a hit coming here, so she's losing power, essentially, I would assume, to be able to go back right away. So she's kind of stuck here for a while.
Yeah.
You know, not just stuck, but also on a mission. And but in some of the other stories we'll get to, we see that she kind of reveals herself to certain people. And is that something that she just controls?
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed thinking about this story and the Valkyries, and if you look at the art, she's sort of angelic. And in really thinking about how the people of eternity throughout the ages have gotten glimpses of the Valkyries, and how does that happen? And I really, toyed a lot with, or in my own mind thought a lot about how people will see angels, and in my mind that's sort of how it is. It's sort of the inspiration, if you will, for
Sure.
how the people of eternity think about the Valkyries. They see something with wings shrouded in light and fire, but only get a glimpse of it. And that, you get side glimpses. And over time, this myth builds of angels. And so, sort of, playing off of that while using this holy, if you will, fire, the celestial fire that they control. Um, was interesting to sort of think about the angels that aren't really angels. They're shrouded in light because they command this extremely powerful and all-consuming fire, and that's what the people of eternity are seeing, but they don't understand that, or they don't see it. And it is this fire that they use to fight darkness. And later on we'll get sort of a more direct example of how they can use the fire to empower allies and weaken their enemies. But yeah, I think, in terms of appearing to the people of eternity, they don't appear as the Valkyrie would, in a piece of art you see here. She appears that way because she's been so weakened by this effort. But typically, they appear as like angels, shrouded in fire, which people perceive as this shining light.
I put a graphic of the Valkyrie on stream as well, if you guys want to reference it, or so that people know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So it was kind of fun to like play off the idea of, and angels being these mostly, if you will, gentle, people of life, where really, in this story, they're really these soldiers that are fighting this eternal conflict. It was kind of a fun dichotomy to play with.
Yeah. Well, it's just pulling in stuff from our own world, I guess, to utilize as a base of creativity. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of fun to think about all the various sources that you can pull from when building a world like this.
Yeah, kind of like the Draugrs pulling them in as a kind of a match to the Valkyries.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, the sort of inspiration for them came from Norse mythology, I
Yeah,
believe.
correct.
So yeah, it's definitely fun to pull from all sorts of sources.
So we labeled these gods the Domini Esse, and that means masters of creation. So
Yeah.
I think we've got an opportunity there to work some of that in to the overall, like, what is the conflict?
Hmm.
Because I know that we've chatted about that a little bit, but we haven't really gone hardcore into that. And so, seeing that and creating that um, conflict between the two different um, sides, if you will, hopefully that's kind of our ideas that brings some kind of a nice overarching plot conflict.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I think this helps drive a bigger picture while the smaller, the more local conflicts help drive the story in small ways. Maybe the kingdom level conflicts drive it in a little bit longer of a way, but this is really that long arch. And,
mhm,
really, I think opens up the world of eternity and the universe of eternity, not only for the lore and the story, but also for the game. We have an opportunity here to bring in these different pieces of story and use them in different ways to create new and interesting games, levels to the game, um, that I don't think you really see a whole lot. The last game that I really remember layers like this it might be Diablo. Where you start off fighting in a little town, and then you're like, okay, this is a little bit bigger, and then you end up fighting the devil himself. You're like,
yeah,
you really go from small to huge through that story, and I think that sort of building is really a benefit for us.
yeah,
We can really take it in a lot of directions and do a lot of things with that. It gives us a lot of resources to do that.
yeah. Story expansion,
Yeah,
eventually character expand. I mean, I can just so many possibilities there.
right. Absolutely. You know, um, yeah.
Great. Mm.
So we had mentioned at the beginning of this that the Valkyrie is gonna be available for whitelist only. Um, so if you guys haven't already, join the Discord, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, the YouTube channel, everywhere. We will have a lot more whitelist opportunities. Um, but that'll be your only chance to
Hmm.
get the Valkyrie, and you know, and calling her the Eternal Warrior and talking about what a badass warrior she is. Playing her in game, she is one of my like go-to characters at this point because
Mhm.
her abilities are fantastic. There's really good diversity there, so you guys won't want to miss that. So definitely follow us, keep an eye out for more whitelist events and opportunities, and your chance to get a Valkyrie or to buy
Yep,
the Valkyrie.
definitely will be special.
Definitely. So, some of the other characters we've discussed in some of the earlier episodes have kind of been related to another character. Does the Valkyrie has another character that it's related to, or at least like some in some way combined with? I think you've
Mm.
mentioned something about it maybe already, but I don't know if we have like a specific character that they are linked with.
Um, yeah, she has come in contact with another character that we have that will be in the game at launch. I'm not sure exactly how you'll be able to get them yet, but it'll be the Avenger, and so we have his story, and she plays a part in his story. I won't say it's a central role, but she definitely is connected to him in a certain way, and I
So,
think that also introduces another way that they can use this celestial fire.
so it's not a deep connection like the vampire and the augur, for example, but is it more like the warrior and the ranger? Would you say, or is even that connection too strong compared to what these guys eventually will have for connection?
Mm. I think it's hard to say where that connection will end up in terms of depth, but what we have, at least at this point with the Avenger, is it's more of a relationship like the Augur had with Cece, where the Augur has his conflict, and in the Valkyrie, stepping in and becoming a part of his story, that conflict, the scope of that conflict expands greatly. He has his personal conflict, and she, changes the dynamic and scope of that.
I see.
Which is also kind of fun, to tie in these characters, maybe not in named ways, but definitely noticeable ways. When you hear the description, the goal is for you to be like, oh yeah, no, I know who that is, but the Avenger doesn't know who that is, but you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we also it's clear that the Valkyrie somehow ends up in eternity. And I don't think it was covered by what we've discussed already. I assume she goes after this god after he has been thrown into this dimension, since she's kind of pissed that he got away. So one would assume that she decided to follow him in some way. Does she immediately jump into this dimension, or does she take the L in this case and then they prepare and then they go to find him later on, or what? How does she progress from that kind of lost battle because he got away?
Right. So, in getting away, she doesn't really know where he ended up. He opened this portal, he tore a hole in these dimensions, and then it sealed up. And she didn't really have any way to find him. Which really pissed her off, and the last thing you want mad at you is a eternal warrior. So she made it her mission, sort of in terms of conflict that drives the personal story. That's it. That's her goal, is to find and kill this god. That's like the god that got away. And so we don't go into a whole lot of detail about that here, but time passes and she keeps an ear out for things that sound odd, or the things that she thinks may be his resting point. And so she ends up hearing about some weird stuff on Eternity that's really ties into another character's story. She doesn't play a role in that story, but that story and that narrative is sort of what she hears, and that prompts her to go, that sounds weird. That sounds like that may be, what I'm looking for. That the source of this could very well be this god of death, the god that got away, if you will. And so that is when she decides to investigate further and you know, muster this power that she has and really expend a lot of that energy and power to um, follow him, to investigate eternity. And time is an interesting thing here, because we have this god of death making his escape a long time ago in ancient history, and then this narrative that she hears is also very old.
Hmm.
And then she arrives at eternity sort of in present day. So in my mind, not only do we have different planes of existence where physical things are physically different, but we very well could explore things where time is different
Mm-hmm.
and travels in different ways or moves at different speeds. And I think that would be pretty cool to investigate as well.
Certainly very interesting. Okay, so we've reached the 40-minute mark, which means we are entering the Q&A part. So if you guys in the chat have any questions, now is the perfect time to get them in the chat so we can see them. Otherwise, I guess we can just continue this conversation, unless you guys have something else you want to discuss. Do we want to put on some gameplay while we discuss things?
Yeah.
I will
Yeah,
set that up.
sounds
You
good.
guys can just find something interesting to talk about, and I'll get that set up meanwhile.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Valkyrie could play a pretty central role in other stories, and as we move forward, really be a key character. Not just in terms of her abilities, which, as I said before, are fantastic, but really, she has this perspective of this celestial conflict, and the only other people that have that is the augur, and the augur's keeping it a secret. He's got a guy in his head. Like, I don't feel like the augur is going to go around being like, the voice in my head told me blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like that would go over well. Um, but the Valkyrie, if our heroes meet her and are like, "Oh, who are you?" She can provide sort of a credible source of this larger conflict, and I think there's a lot to think about there in terms of how her introduction can broaden the scope of the entire story, not just, I mentioned before with the Avenger how his conflict goes from small and personal to cosmic rapidly because of her. And I think that's an effect that we can definitely see um, moving forward with the storyline
Mm-hmm.
and with the game, really.
I just want to give a quick disclaimer. As always, when we show this gameplay, it's a early version, so stuff here is subject to change. Some of you who might have been here the last few times may already see some changes. Just keep in mind that what you see here is not representative of the final product, and also that this is a very small part of the game. So also keep that in mind. Yeah, just continue.
Yeah, so I think that's a theme that we'll see with her, and there are other characters that I think we'll see introduce broader conflicts, or sort of expand the scope of the conflict.
I see our
So
character list expanded.
absolutely.
I don't know if we have new characters to show off though, so I just selected our
Sure.
usual characters
Yeah,
for now.
yeah, absolutely. For anyone that's interested, we did put some animations of the Valkyrie's ability up on Twitter. So, maybe next week we'll have some gameplay with her. I'm not sure how much of her abilities have been animated, but some cool previews up on the Twitter, and we'll get them up on our YouTube channel as well if they're not there already.
Oh, yeah.
I hope the gameplay is running smoother this time
It
than last week.
looks real good, I think.
Yeah, that looks great. For anyone that's been watching the gameplay sort of progress, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but every week I feel like we get a bunch of really good additions to the gameplay, whether that's debuffs and buffs showing really nicely, or the character list expanding, or stuff like that. I feel like there's a lot of progress made each week, so hopefully pretty soon we'll have some major character additions with animations and stuff like that. I know the art team is working really hard to get all that up and running.
Yeah, we got pretty much new drops every day that we see coming in. Just about. So I try to drop something every day on Insta if anybody's interested in that. Trying to build that up without all of the insane bot promoters, which is bananas. So
It's always fun.
I asked, like, are there real people? As well as, like, are there actually is everyone just a promoter? I don't know.
You're an influencer, Tal.
I guess so. I'm influencer for people that want the money to promote the site. I guess that's about it.
Oh, I'm getting
For the
paid as
5
well.
real people, thank you for following us on Instagram.
I think they call those nano influencers. I don't know. I feel like there's a new level of influencer every day.
I'll take it.
Gonna be insta famous.
Oh boy.
Oh man, that assassin took a beating.
It really did. I was afraid the vampire might as well, but it looked like she actually came out all right.
Yeah. She's my favorite. She's got those. She has some abilities that help heal her personally and make the other characters bleed, and yeah, she's another definite go-to for me. Now the gameplay will get really interesting when we get a high priestess in there. Then you can actually have healing and some real survivability.
Yes.
Trying to play without a healer is definitely rough. I learned that lesson early on.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, like we have the other characters, the abilities and all of that are there. It's just the artwork that's coming. So, like Tal said, he has new art almost every day on Instagram. We have a lot of art coming out. So as the art comes out for the characters and the animations, we'll be able to show you guys more characters and how they work together, and how you can really build your ideal team.
Yeah. There'll be, I think we mentioned before that at least the plan is there will be character combos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and I think it'll probably tie into the story relation, because we talked about that too. So I think that's kind of a neat thing that we're trying to get implemented, is we have a combination of lore building and game building, and they intersect, and it's actually quite fascinating to watch one side influence the other side. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I made some beautiful paint drawings.
Yeah, you did.
How good my MS Paint abilities are. I should really.
This will be our first NFT of the map of eternity, like the full.
Yeah, it's like pre alpha.
Yeah,
land of eternity. It's good.
Essentially drawn on a napkin.
Yes, absolutely. Very much like a digital napkin. It was great. Even had little like legend.
Yeah, it was great.
maybe when we launch, we can release some of the behind the scenes art, and I'm very hopeful that that'll get included, so everyone can see my genius.
And I have no chance in this battle. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Watch
The
how much
elemental?
health this Earth Elemental has. Like
got
it's
no-
slaughtering me.
He's got no tank to take the hits.
Yeah.
5600 HP. And then we have this one at 3500, and this guy.
What level are you? 10?
Yeah.
At 10 level.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
I don't have high hopes on this one.
Are
I do literally almost no damage.
I think all of the equipment on these are like real basic too, right? Like we haven't even got into the tiers of wow, you just got
Bam.
Yeah.
That's over.
That's it.
Kind of expected, I will admit, but yeah.
Wow.
And this is the perfect example of this is not going to be a super simple game. It's definitely going to be something that requires some planning, some thought, some practice. I've certainly gotten a lot better since my first game, and
I think the game loop on this is going to be what excites people because they've taken kind of some tried and true things and turned them into less, at least for me, playing is like the feedback loop's so good that the grind is rewarding, and that's like massive in this kind of thing because you are playing for better loot, you are playing for better characters, and so you're constant. And not only that, but it's also going to have real rewards tied to it, which changes the whole dynamic. So I think that people are going to be really surprised what our dev team has come up with. We get to hear about it. It's just, every day is amazing. So
I also think it's worth mentioning that these battles are probably more random than what you would see in the game, because the game would be carefully planned out, so you know the encounter that you go into, or at least it's my understanding that the encounter will be the same. Like you go into an encounter, if you fail the encounter, it should be the same, or at least a similar encounter next time, which is what allows you to plan for it in the next battle that you do in the encounter.
I believe you're correct.
So also just to say that battles won't be like random like this, where you have one battle and it's all right, you can fight that, and then the next one you just get completely wrecked because.
North did say that I think we touched on this before, that they'll be themed. So, like the creatures will make sense for the story, where it's at and all that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely that too. That is also why you see so many mixed units in this. For example, you have two like elementals here, and then a skeleton and a bandit, and it doesn't really make sense why you would see these particular enemies in a battle. And also, if you look at the background, it doesn't really make sense for this particular setup. But again, it's because this is more random, more like test focused.
Well, we're just testing.
Yeah.
In the final game, you would obviously see a lot more coherence in thematics as well as who you're fighting. Yeah. And again, that all carries back to the disclaimer that what you see here is very early and all alpha stuff and subject to change. These are some of the changes that at least I would expect that you would see in a released version of this game.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't see these elementals right off the bat. You saw how they wrecked Hisha, so you're not going to see them. Likely won't see them right away, and when you do, it'll either you'll be ready for them or more ready for them.
I mean, if everyone gets wrecked right out of the gate, no one's going to want to play.
Right,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So the smooth progression's part of the system. So
yeah, Yeah, and the other
They're going
thing I
for
would
Dark Souls type. No, I'm kidding.
oh man, that would be rough. I was never good at that game. Um, the other thing I would note is the equipment on these characters is totally random.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to equip and sort of focus on different stats or boosts or anything like that, and I think that'll really give you an edge. Even though this equipment is random, I remember playing before there was equipment for each character, and that was even worse. And now there's equipment, and it's random, so it may not be specifically tailored to your character's strong suits or stats, but it certainly helps. So you as the player will be able to get more equipment or buy equipment from the general store, buy good equipment from the auction house kind of thing, to really tailor each character's stats to their strong suits, which I think will make another big difference in this.
It seems like I was even lucky enough to get some rare equipment in this battle. At least I am assuming blue means rare and white is common.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if we have confirmation of that, but that's just like me as a gamer looking at this, being like, there must be something special about this equipment that is highlighted in blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they've settled on color tiers.
Me neither, but at least could be something. That's very cool. I noticed we can't see equipment of the enemies in this. I think we could in other versions. So I'm not sure if the enemies have equipment yet, or if we just can't see it. Just something I noticed. But very interesting, definitely. I was just trying to figure out what you were talking about regarding the equipment being like kind of random, if that was for the heroes or for the enemies. But I'm assuming you meant for the heroes, right? Like that's what you were talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that we don't see it on the enemies, which I guess also could make sense. I don't know how much they want to reveal to you about each battle. Maybe you'll be able to see it in the end. Maybe you can even, like, I don't know how the rewarding of, like, when you win a battle, how likely it is for you to get something, if that'll be rolled based on what is on the battlefield, or if it's just gonna be from like an item pool or something. Either way, it could be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the plan is to have a broad selection of equipment and armor and all of that. So there'll be plenty to choose from.
Definitely.
Plenty to earn and grind through.
Definitely. Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I assume everyone has gotten all the answers that they want. So unless you guys have anything you want to end the show with, we have 3 minutes that we can use. Otherwise, we can call it 3 minutes early. I think we did go a few minutes over last time, so so we can get some of the time back this time, unless someone wants to have the ending word.
Midnight, did you want to announce our...
Absolutely. So for everyone that is here until the end, I want to announce that we're going to do a whitelist giveaway. So what you need to do, if you're not already on the whitelist and you want to get on the whitelist, is join our Discord and DM me, Midnight703, and DM me the Valkyrie's first name. So do that within 24 hours. So 24 hours from now, join our Discord, shoot me the Valkyrie's first name. We'll be putting the story up in format later today in an announcement, so you can refer to that if you need to. But you have 24 hours. DM me and a whitelist spot is yours.
Nice.
You can also rewatch the stream if you already forgot the name. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's great. And before we end, we of course would like to remind you guys that you can join our Discord at discord.gg/EternityRPG, and you can also follow us on Twitter, and I believe that is at EternityRPG. And our Instagram. Can you tell us about the Instagram, Tal?
Yep, it's eternity_RPG.
Excellent. Did I forget any platforms? I guess we have Medium as well, where you can check. Otherwise, all the links are also in the links channel on the Discord. So if you join the Discord, then you'll be able to find all the other links that we've just mentioned, and possibly also the ones that we forgot. Definitely remember to give us a follow here if you want to watch more Eternity content, especially the Heroes table, but maybe if we do other shows as well in the future, or other content that might not be scheduled, who knows what we will do. We have the platform here, so we'll figure out ways to do it. Right now we're using it for this, but that's definitely more than one day in a week, so maybe we could find out more things in the future as we go along.
Sounds good.
All right. If there's nothing else, we have reached the time, so I just want to thank everyone for coming by, and you guys for joining me once again.
Thank you.
And yeah,
always a pleasure.
Definitely. So yeah, everyone come back again next Sunday, where we will be discussing more awesome things, and hopefully we'll have an equally exciting episode next time. Until then,
for the glory.
For the glory, definitely. All right, see you everyone next week. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
All right, bye everyone.